On this episode of ResiWeek, how crack affects WPA2, CCTV DVRs have been hacked, Amazon's Cydia partnership, and you. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Access Networks and by Daylight, the leading producer of high-quality projection screens worldwide.
This is ResiWeek episode 89, Cracked.
This is ResiWeek.
Welcome to ResiWeek. This is your weekly wrap-up of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott for AVNation.tv. And today, I'm pleased to be joined by a big old crew of people. We have Hagai Feiner. He is the CEO of Access Networks. How are you, sir?
I am well. How's it going?
It's going great. Thanks for joining the motherload of shows today. We stacked it to have a lot of fun and talk about a lot of fun stuff. Then we have Michael Bridwell. He is the new director of commercial sales at Dana Innovations. How are you, sir?
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Then we have Joe Whitaker. You know him. He's the president of The Thoughtful Home. Hey, Joe, how are you?
Doing well, and always glad to be here.
Glad you're here, too. Last but certainly not least, we have Mitchell Klein. He is the executive director of the ZWave Alliance. How are you, sir?
Fabulous, and always great to be back, and especially with such esteemed company.
Ooh, esteemed. Might make you take off that hoodie, though, or that sweatshirt. After you stole, I don't even like the Jets, and you still stole a win from the Jets.
Just great to be the one that you're all jealous of.
Shots fired.
It's awesome. 1 minute in and we're already going. All right, gentlemen, let's kick this right off with a story that comes to us from Forbes. If you've been on the internet today, hopefully you saw this. Essentially, there is a new crack that is opened the vulnerability to the WPA2 certification, or not certification, but authentication and protocols, security protocols for Wi-Fi. This is a bit of a major deal because up until recently, that has been one of the few things that has not been cracked. Since we have Hagai here, I'm going to start with you because this is, out of all of us, this is definitely your wheelhouse, 100%. Obviously, this has not been done before. This has a lot of people scrambling and seeming to be concerned. Or I shouldn't say not done before, but
it's been done before with web, right?
Yes.
So web was thought to be secure, and then boom, it wasn't, and that was very quick. Relative.
Yes. This is the first time with WPA2, though.
And WPA TKIP, WPA1 was also, because it had actually some pieces from web that were brought over to WPA. WPA2AES was kind of the gold standard of what you would use for password encryption. And so now, of course, that's been, and so sorry to interject.
No. Please do.
Hand it over to me.
Well, again, that's why you're here.
Yeah, I wanted to add a correction, but obviously it's a problem. It's a problem for all of us from a service perspective. We're going to have to wait for the manufacturers to come out with fixes. Some of them have already done so I applaud Microsoft, Apple, but for example, for Androids, we don't have a fix yet, so that's something to watch for. On the hardware manufacturing side, from a Wi-Fi perspective, Ruckus Wireless is still working on it, is what I hear, direct contact today. But then you have Ubiquiti that already came out with a fix, and the same thing with Aruba, so that's good. The effect of something like this for our channel is relatively limited, and for two main reasons. Number one, whoever wants to attack you needs to be with proximity to your location, meaning they need to be within Wi-Fi range. So unless someone deliberately wanted to find said homeowner or Joe's office, them coming to you is relatively unlikely. And even if they were to come to your house and be within range of your network, the next thing that would have to happen is that they would have to have a relatively complicated setup of equipment to interject themselves between your client and your wireless network and essentially be the man in the middle, and kind of sniff those packets and then potentially modify those packets. But even still, if you were on Chase Business Banking and you were conducting your business and someone did hack your Wi-Fi network, they would still not see that kind of traffic because it's encrypted with HTTPS. So there's another layer of encryption that they would have to go through that they won't be able to break. And so it really is, the effects on our channel should be relatively minimal, if any. And again, the real question is, how long is it going to take for those manufacturers to come up with a fix?
Very good.
You know, I'll tell you something that's really interesting timing, because about a couple of weeks ago, we got notification from Google that all of your websites had to be now HTTPS, or you risk no longer being searchable on the Google search algorithm. So someone must have known something was up long before this press release came out. Very interesting.
And also remember that this type of problem is affecting both the wireless network equipment and the clients. So if I have Sony TVs that have Google Android running on them and a Wi-Fi chip, which is connecting back to my wireless system, I can be attacked through those devices as well. So when you patch, you have to patch everything.
Wow.
Everybody's going to have to come out with a patch.
Well, and Joe, given that what Hagai just said about how it's every device, it's not just your Wi-Fi base or your access point, it's every device in that chain. Sure, we are going to expect the Ciscos and the Netgears and the Ruckus and all the big boys. They'll patch all their gear at some point. But is Sony or Samsung or Vizio or any IoT device that's on Wi-Fi, are any of those guys likely going to patch? I saw today that they're expecting an Android patch in the next few weeks, not in the next couple of days, next few weeks. What are you supposed to do at that point?
Well, I'm with Hagai 100% on this, because you got to think about anytime there's been a big hack like this in the past, they don't go after, residential clients. They don't go after small offices. I'm going to keep my eye across the street where there's a big corporation and wait for the white van to pull up that has to have enough gear to actually capture, log onto that access point, and then try to dig into their local servers, which that is the end game. That's the fear. Just getting onto that Wi-Fi or getting into that TV and saying, hey, what's the network traffic? No. Those guys who are going to try to actually use this are going to try to get onto these corporate infrastructures that are using these access points, and they're going to try to use that to gain access to the internal network. They're going to try to get in machine. Who cares about traffic? That like Hagai said, it's all encrypted. Unless they have both sides of it, that the information does them no good. However, Sony and all those, and Android, same 2 weeks. On smaller consumer devices, fine. You hack my Android TV sitting here in my office, and what are you going to get? You might find out what I watch on Netflix. You might get my Hulu username and password. You're not going to be. I don't do banking on my TV. These things are, it always comes back to that, the security purpose of what are you trying to protect? Now, if they gain access to the local network through that crack in WPA2 and they're getting to local devices, okay, now we have a problem in residential where this actually happened. Hagai brought up a good thing in this is a long time ago in WEP. When that crack happened, we tested that crack, and I could gain access to an access point. And from that access point, I could get on the LAN. And from that LAN, I could unlock the front door, shut off the security cameras, and turn off the security system. Those are the kind of attacks that there's fear in that. But by the time these guys, they're going to waste their time at big corporations. They're not going to come to my house. They're not going to go to, they might go to Hagai's house just to drive that car. I'm just saying.
Yeah, they might spot that out. But
they might spot that out. But
yeah, a little bit.
It's going to be a little different. It's going to be fixed fast, and it's going to be fixed before it reaches residential.
Very good. Michael.
I think what this highlights is and we'll talk about this a little bit later on, is the continued need for the homeowner to have a single resource to handle their technology in the home. And that is something that is continuous, and it's something that's only going to increase, not decrease.
Michael, I wanted to ask and get your opinion on this because when stuff like this comes up, it goes everywhere. It gets all over the news. It hits social media like crazy. And there's a lot of disinformation, essentially, as far as concern and just not knowing what this actually means. We're in this business. We deal with this on a daily basis. We can read this article and say, okay, it's a big deal, but it's not that big of a deal because it's residential. It's not commercial. We're not Bank of America. How do you as an integrator dispel the fear that a lot of your clients may get as soon as they see this and go, oh my God, my Wi-Fi has been hacked?
Well, I have never been on the integrator side. I've always purely been manufacturer. But the first thing that goes to my mind is the integrators that are in the LA area, the integrators that are in the mountain areas, north in Utah and Colorado. People of high net worth that are going to say, sure, I get it. It's not a massive residential threat at this point in time, but we are constant targets, being high net worth people, being people of high visibility, and we will be the residential people that will be targeted. So, yeah, I don't know if I were on that side, and if most of my client base was in affluent areas, I would be quite concerned about it in the short term. And conversely, if I was somebody with a large amount of high net worth, I would certainly be paranoid about what I'm putting in my home as well as who I'm partnering with. I think Hagai said it best. I think having a centralized point of contact for all things that you can trust is critical. And that's, it's reason 1,477 that somebody would use a proven, honest integrator.
Very good. Mitchell, just before we go, does this affect any of the ZWave products and things like that? Is there anything that people need to be aware of?
Fortunately, nope. Not at all.
I love it.
Even our ZWave over IP is all through a TLS 1.1 tunnel, and it's pretty secure. But as Hagai aptly pointed out, any device in there is a point of access. And what I might add to Michael's point is, as an integrator, it's a fabulous opportunity for me to reach out to my customers, explain what's going on, and tell them why they shouldn't be worried. And they'll come out with a new update to the security protocols. And again, I think it's just a great opportunity for the integrators as opposed to a problem for them.
Very good. All right, gentlemen, let's move on to our next story. And Tim's going to hate us because we're kind of bypassing a lot of his stories that he selected, but we found better ones. No, I'm just kidding. There's a bunch of stuff that's valid and jumping off right now, which is why we're jumping into it. Yeah, sorry, Tim. It's Matt's fault. Just blame Matt. This comes to us from CSO Online. Now, this kind of made the rounds in social media a little bit more than across the board. Essentially, what is going on is there has been a minor epidemic, we'll say, of security cameras being hacked, as you see in this photo. This is specifically a Hikvision IP camera system that had a back door that was hacked. And this is more than just Hikvision, though. Joe, we kind of talked off air a little bit about this. We talked pre-show, and more importantly, we talked on social media a little bit about this. This is not just some port forwarding gone bad. This is a little bit more than this, and it's more than Hikvision, and it's surprising that this has not been picked up by a lot of the industry writers at this point. Give us a bit of an overview on what's going on and where this has been tracked back to.
So first, when you get cameras, you think of that as part of your security system. You think it'll be secure. That's one of the first feelings you have, and that's compounded on a secure network. But this time around, it doesn't matter what you're using in your network, what brand of camera you're using, even how much you spent on that camera. Because at the end of the day, the chipsets that are inside these cameras are manufactured at like 1 of 3 facilities. Even the CMOS, even the lenses, 100 different brands are manufactured basically by 4 to 5 factories. Mm-hmm. So it's really out there. So when this is a backdoor that's built into hardware, that's what this was. This was the backdoor path for firmware upgrades used by the manufacturer. This is how they implement firmware upgrades for one of the most recent ones they pushed out there, by the way, was adding facial recognition and person count inside a frame was one of the more recent firmware upgrades. And this is how they get those in there. So by using manufacturers' DDNS, how you are able to remotely use these cameras within a phone app or remotely on a computer is how they attacked it. They went very high level. The people that attacked this, which a good guy out on social media backtracked this all the way to the Ukraine, was that they are attacking the manufacturer's DDNS, whether it be IC DDNS for IC real-time, which got hit, Hikvision's DDNS, the list goes on.
Honeywell, FLIR, everybody.
FLIR, everybody. They use that DDNS address with basically a random IP address, an HTTPS address that could have said hagaishome.icddns.com. They randomly just tracked that on HTTPS addresses, and then once they, oh, this one actually exists. Now let's use this backdoor username and password for firmware upgrades, and let's get local access. But here's the good thing. Those who did initiate strong and secure networks, that is as far as they could get. They could get in, they could modify these cameras because 90% of these cameras are plugged into a built-in switch built into the NVR. They're not segmented out of the network. So those cameras, let's change the name of the cameras to hacked and firmware and upgrade and whatever else we can do. But the reason why we haven't heard this in publications, number one, it has just kind of been found out where it came from. Number two, the reasoning nobody knows yet. Why are they attacking these NVRs? Are they trying to find a senator with cameras and catch him doing something naughty so that they can, hit him with, hey, I need $1 million, or, the public's going to find out you have a drug habit, or whatever no one knows why they are doing this yet. And without the reason, it's kind of hard to write about. And this affected, I witnessed at least 100 different people talking about this on social media. And us as a company with good, strong, solid networks that are really locked down, we had it happen to us. And we were like, how does this happen? Well, thank you, manufacturer, for building in a way for somebody else to play with my gear.
Mitch, given that this is very hard for an integrator to solve this problem when it's a manufacturer-driven backdoor that's open. How much pressure can integrators, can the industry put on manufacturers to increase the quality of their backdoors if they're going to have them, to increase the security of it?
Well, I think the integrators can push a little bit of leverage, but it goes way beyond that. And you do notice that from a congressional level, they've started talking about security in a variety of devices. And I think it's really not going to be the integrators that are going to influence any change. It's going to be the marketplace as a whole. And the threat of legal action and legislation is really what's going to do it, not the integrators.
Very good. Michael, this is something that obviously affects everyone. How do you weave this story beyond what it is? Because at the end of the day, anything that's online can be hacked. Anything can be accessible. And just for the record, Hagai's security system is not Hagai's house. Just don't try it. It won't work. But what do you do? Like
working on it.
Yeah, one, I don't appreciate you thinking that I can't do it, even though I can definitely not do it. For me, Matt, it just, I approach these conversations from a little bit of a different spot. I am not a strong networking background. So for me, it makes me utterly paranoid and makes me feel even more paranoid when I hear someone like Hagai before the show starts saying, everything can and will be hacked. And then we go, start the show. And I'm sitting, my brain is still trying to absorb that bit of information with 2 young kids and a wife in the house. But I am not from the networking side. I do have a large amount of cameras in and inside, outside, and within the house. And I think more like an end user in this case right now,
Okay.
where I'm like, an extreme enthusiast when it comes to the technology that our industry sells. And then I also apply about 50 to 60% of it through learning everything on my own. So I immediately, once this show is over, I'm going to go and just pull a bunch of plugs. And then I'm going to call Hagai and Joe and try to get 30 minutes of free insight on my network settings for the next beverage that I can buy.
The first move, Mike, you might want to change your password from admin and password.
Username admin, password admin, right?
Thankfully, a product like LastPass and things helps keep the family relatively good on the front end. But no, I think it is. I think anybody who hears about it, they'll hear tendrils of it. They won't have the insight that the people on this call have. And again, I go back to Hagai's initial thought and Mitch's secondary thought, which is it is an awesome opportunity for integrators to reach out, make your people feel safe and secure.
Well, and the question is, can the integrator do that? Because I can tell you a dirty little secret is that an integrator that I know that happened to work at my house has the same password for all the NVRs that they set up.
Well, that is awesome.
So to be very disconcerting along that lines, we worked with a local company that supplies security systems. They're specifically an alarm company. And we'd like to think that they are better at alarms and things like this than, maybe the AV guys are, because that is their bread and butter. That is their specifics. They handle everything from banks to quick serve restaurants to residential to malls. Same thing. Their backdoor access is a 8-digit code. That's not that complicated. It's their company name and the last 4 digits of their phone number. Hagai, when we see stuff like this, obviously you get excited about this because this is your bread and butter. Beyond the stuff that we've talked about, what else, if anything, can integrators do? What are their best practices looking at these kind of issues and saying, hey, we're going to redesign the way we solve these problems for people and offer these solutions?
So I think that the integrators who are leading the pack, if you will deploy security services on a firewall level, will not open ports unless they have to, will change default passwords that are not sequenced with other passwords for other homes, and will ultimately separate the homeowner's personal devices where all of their stuff exists, where the important stuff exists, from every IoT device in a home, every camera system, every control system even, and put those two on two separate VLANs that are not talking to each other. Now, one would say, well, we're sacrificing convenience for security, and I will answer, yes, we are, and yes, we should.
Have you been in an airport?
Right. If we don't want to do that, then ultimately we will be more vulnerable. And again, this whole WPA problem, that's, I think, relatively easy to mitigate. Just physical access is difficult to gain, but as was mentioned, some high net worth individuals or stars that everybody knows where they live here in Beverly Hills, they could be a victim of a crime that was perpetrated by this crap. On the other side, what happened with the camera system to me is much more scary, because whoever attacked those camera systems will never be found. Those people are gone. They are gone. By the time you know it, they're done and they're finished. Or maybe they're not. Maybe they planted some things on those NVRs. These are things that are hard to control. So we as integrators, right, and I guess I'm not an integrator, but in this channel, we as the ones who facilitate integration of systems have the responsibility to inform the homeowner when things happen, to stay in touch with them, to set up these systems without common passwords. I think the problem with common passwords is, what do you do when you have someone leave your business and then they have access to everything that you've ever done because those passwords are common.
Well, Hagai said something before the show, which I think is important. And that it is that this is an opportunity for the integrator to go back and do what Hagai has preached for years, own the network. Everything that can be touched, they should somewhat be in charge of. Because in the last 12 months, we've seen Yahoo get hacked, Experian or one of those credit things get hacked. We've seen cameras, we've seen WPA2. Like the guy said, anything that can be touched will be touched. And somebody has to get in there and own this.
So if it can be hacked, it will be hacked, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think this, if you look at One Vision and Joey Kluczynski and what he's doing, I think this is the perfect opportunity, the golden opportunity for One Vision to underscore their value to the homeowner by remaining in touch and making sure that there's an inventory of all the devices in the house and what can be patched. And if it can't, that device should be out of that home, or it should be turned off, or it should be hardwired, or whatever it is.
So just on that point, so what do you do as an integrator if you do go through that inventory list of things that the client has and something's on there that can't be hardwired and the client does not want to get rid of it? How do you insulate yourself?
VLAN. You first of all, I think you need to have written communications with the client explaining what's going on, what doing an inventory in their house of what exists there, which you can very easily do just by scanning the network,
Mm-hmm.
and then making a joint decision that's documented with the client regarding that network. If you have a network that's capable of building added VLANs and separating your personal devices or the homeowner's personal devices from everything else IoT related, you should do it. You should do it by default. If that's not something you're going to do, then at least have recognition from that homeowner that they understand that there's a vulnerability and it could lead to something more serious unless they're willing to take those devices offline or if they can't be patched.
Very good. All right, gentlemen, let's move on to probably our last group of stories for the day. Hopefully on a slightly brighter note, maybe, depending on your take on it. This comes to us from CE Pro, and I'm going to show the two articles that we're going to kind of talk about together. This is Jason Knott and Amazon detailing their custom home service for Cedia Smart Home Pros. Now, if you've missed this, this is Amazon's new marketplace for smart home technology, where they are working with Cedia and Cedia members to make essentially you as a Cedia member a partner with Amazon, so that when people hire Amazon or look to use Amazon to do some of their smart home technology, it goes or can potentially go to a Cedia member. The other article that we're going to talk about, and this is from Chuck Snyder, is how Cedia dealers shouldn't trust Amazon as their smart home partner. He outlines a couple of things going back to history of the way some people have, shall we say, flirted with the Cedia channel as far as growing their business base. And then depending on your view on it, maybe hasn't worked out so well for those Cedia channel people. Michael, I want to start with you on this. Amazon is the behemoth. They are the monster in the room. Is there value there for integrators to partner with Amazon? And I don't want to drill it down to a single, is it profitable for you to go hang a TV that you got through Amazon? But from a business case, is there potential profitability and true benefits to Cedia working directly with Amazon?
There's a couple. I've been following the story actually for a couple of months for a couple of reasons. One is, do the people on this call, is there a clear path to how, as an integrator, you would actually be considered in the front line? Because the article that you just showed, Amazon says 2% of the potential traffic things that would come through the Amazon portal would then be elevated to a level that an integrator would then potentially be involved. So one, I'm really curious about the vetting process that Amazon has in place for the integrators they would choose. But I also I think there's another interesting aspect of the story that includes another behemoth in the industry that integrators that we at Cedia like to gnash our teeth about, which is Magnolia, Best Buy.
Mm-hmm.
Because the timing of this coincides with Best Buy's IHA program that has sort of been in the wings for the last couple of years. Now aggressively ramping up. And in theory, the IHA group through Magnolia supplies the same or similar service as this Amazon in-home services group does.
Okay.
So, and I'm not seeing a lot of people discuss that, but that's two massive companies that we are always kind of trying to embrace in one way and keep at bay in another, especially when it comes to, say, our labor forces and things like that. We don't want a massive company like that coming in and competing with us on labor force, because we already have a labor force shortage, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I find it interesting that these two companies are ramping a similar service at exactly the same time, but both of them are saying, well, Amazon especially saying, no, don't worry about it, guys. We're not going to compete with you. This is a very, very small percentage. Look over there. Look at the bright side. We're supplying you phenomenal connected hardware. Don't worry about the services part. Don't worry about that. We're not interested in that. I understand the paranoia, but I think there's more to it than the Amazon side. I think it's kind of a bookend thing between the IHA group through Best Buy and the Amazon in-home services.
Who was jumping on that? Somebody?
I'm happy to interject.
Oh, yeah, jump in.
So, I know Best Buy Magnolia very well, and I think that if you were to try and stack those up, let's say take Cedia out of the Cedia channel, out of the equation, and just stack the two up against each other, Magnolia is better positioned. Best Buy and Magnolia together as a sales force is much better positioned to go and handle the high-end home than where Amazon is right now. Amazon's shortage and inability led it to Cedia, I believe, because it's difficult to grow a sales team and a technical team to support homes at the level that we service them, right? And so I believe this is why Amazon is coming to Cedia, recognizing its limitations and also its scale, right? Amazon is so big and it's doing so many different things that it does need an outsourced labor force to come in and help them. Now, this, in my mind, is most likely a short-term thing for the basic installations, because eventually you could have Amazon employees that go and hang and bang TVs. Will they be able to provide an integrated experience? That depends on technology and how quickly it evolves and how simple it becomes to set up, right? So we have Joe, help me. There is a new setup protocol for, what is it? Is it ZWave Alliance, the quick setup, or is it something else?
Yes, Smart Start. Yep.
Yeah,
Right.
Smart Start.
So as those things evolve, you're going to have the basic tech being able to perform more of the tasks that it used to take a Crestron programmer to sit somewhere for a week and program your system, right? So there is a trajectory of technology, and there is the capability and availability of the labor force, and where those intersect. And so in my mind, the only way for the Cedia channel to survive this is to continue to communicate the value of having an integrator at your house and having that cell phone number for the homeowner to say, this is who I call, this is who I trust, because you know what, my camera may fail, but I'm going to call Joe. And things are going to get hacked, and Joe's going to be the one that helps me. And I know Joe, and I know his wife, and I know his children, and we go play golf on a weekend or whatever that is. In my mind, that's not something that Amazon will have a position to provide, nor does it want to. Magnolia, on the other side, is already doing it.
Well, Hagai, you talk about scale, so let's touch on scale for a moment, because we already know that on the high end, it's very tough to scale up, right? I mean, it's not individualized experience, and is Amazon ready for that? And probably not at this point. But let's look at the other side of scale. And so Amazon says they're looking at, what, 2%, perhaps? Yeah. 2%? Okay, so if you go back, and I don't remember where I read this, but they get approximately 185 million unique views per month. We'll use that as a number. 2% of that is, what, a little around 200,000? So that's a pretty decent scale, okay? So you got to look at it from a scale perspective, right? Okay. The other piece of it is that as we look at getting involved at the Amazon level, remember, one of the things that drives me, and I'm sure all of you, when you look at a product on Amazon, is you start going down to reviews. So if you're one of those integrators, you say, look, I'm going to jump on, I'm going to do this. You better damn well do it, because you can get killed by the reviews. So if you step in with a toe and you don't dive in head first, those reviews could kill you. So you got to be really careful again, looking at scale just from all those different perspectives.
Right. And I think now what CEDIA has done, and Joe and I are on the CEDIA board, and that was a board decision to go ahead with the Amazon relationship, is give the integrator the option to do it. It's not something that you have to do, but it's something where if you wanted your business to take part in partnership with Amazon, you can. Now you can do it. What it will lead to and where is Amazon going, I don't think is up to any one person within Amazon to determine. So when Amazon's saying we're not coming after your business, I would take it as we're not coming after your business today.
Yeah.
Right now. Right now, we're not chasing you down.
All right, so I'll throw a couple of two cents in there. I read both articles. Dan over at Amazon hit some good points. The doom and gloom subject matter of the second article was interesting to read and to think about. But I think when the board of directors went through this process with Amazon, there were some of those same thoughts on both sides. Oh, well, this might happen or this might happen. It was a very common thread during the whole process because at the time, no one actually understood what it is going to take, what is going to be the outcome, what do they want, what do we have to offer. There were all of these unknowns, and unknowns creates fear. That's basic human instinct. So what we are actually left, just to talk about the doom and gloom article real quick, what we're left with is a process that can lead to prosperity for the integrator if it's taken into account actually what it is. Because to get inside that Amazon process, number one, you have to become somebody on the Amazon market. That's the first step. And that first step requires a business background check, which looks for liens, not paying vendors, all of that kind of thing. Second step in that process is a background check, employee and otherwise. Anybody that is involved in that situation. So now you have a thorough background check. Now, finally, you get to the point where you can be involved with the CEDIA portion of it. That requires you to be an ESC, TD, or technician designer networking. You can't have the basic ESC designation. You have to be one level above that to even participate. You have to be a member in good standing. And there's a lot of other things that go into that. Now, before Amazon launches you and publicizes you on that aspect for your region, there needs to be at least 2 to 3 of those type of people in the CEDIA Amazon marketplace, because they're not just going to offer apples. They've got to offer apples, bananas, and pineapples. It's Amazon. You have to be able to have choices. So you have to have some kind of growth. The way they put this together is very unique in that they've been doing this with plumbers, electricians, and a couple of other trades for almost 2.5 years. They still do not want to install a faucet. They're going to let those guys do it. The doom and gloom roadmap has already been proven. 2.5 years of success with electricians and plumbers, and Amazon is still not installing light switches and faucets. I think we're safe. 2.5 years of millions of dollars in revenue that they could have taken internal has not been taken internal. I did a lot of inside work with Sarah Zins, Dan Quigley, all of those guys on, the branding has to be right. It has to be CEDIA. It can't be this guy wants a soundbar and a TV hung. I'm the guy to call. That's not the case. In the services portal, somebody can go on there and say, I need a $10,000 pre-wire, or I need a pre-wire for a 10,000 square foot house. I don't know where to find one. And they go through the questionnaire and say, it's new construction, it's a home, I need pre-wire, I need fiber optic, I need distributed audio, distributed video. These are my requests. And it gives them a list of CEDIA certified individuals on the marketplace to do a pre-wire. Amazon makes $0 off of that. But once again, they've had a good fulfilled sale through their portal, so they're going to be able to sell more other stuff. Because once they get the house and they move into the house, they're going to need toilet seats, and they're going to need rugs and lamps and all the other stuff that they could get from Amazon, but they have a satisfactory pre-sale through that platform. So there's a lot of things that people aren't thinking about on the big business side that's good for us. Am I signed up for it? Is my company signed up for it? Damn right I am. I see the magic on the other side. I see millions of dollars in revenue that I don't get because I'm not proposed in certain markets or certain areas, or I'm not thought about. Oh, guess what? Now I am. So, I mean, there are some really powerful points into it. And doom and gloom, Amazon is never going to come cut in the speakers that my guys do today. It's never going to happen.
Never say never.
Okay, I'll remember those words.
It's all recorded. But yeah, Joe, I think it's great that you're deciding to tap into the world's largest referral engine right now.
Thank you. Exactly. That's what it is. And if they do decide to install speakers and home automation and all the heavy stuff, because there's 3 levels at Amazon right now. There's the basic stuff, then there's the gurus who come in and do, that minor tech stuff. And then there's service providers. And then there's CDO service providers. If they ever decide to move up that ladder, it's just like the housing market crash. At that point, it is my job as a business owner to change my business operations. At that point, when the housing market crashed, I had to change. There was something with an outside influence that made me have to reinvent business. If that happens again, that is my job to do that.
So we touched on this in our conversation before the show. We touched on Amazon and how a homeowner, even if it's a $10 million home, will still open up the Amazon app and look up a part number you're trying to sell them. And I will say that what I see Amazon thriving on disruption. And primarily when I'm telling you this, I'm referring to the channel disruption, where it used to be that said product was only available through Joe's certified shop. Said product is available now through Joe's certified shop, or completely cutting the distributor and reseller Joe now is available on Amazon. You could talk about the highest level Cisco switch that would need expert programming, still available on Amazon for a price that reflects a very deep discount, and that's been a challenge to deal with for our entire industry. And I think moving forward, you're going to see integrators moving into protected lines simply because the lines that are generally available on Amazon become not profitable when the conversation revolves around price and the integrator doesn't know how to steer it back to value of that integrator being on the job and selling the system.
But this is just the same conversation that we've had for years of we're no longer guys that sell speakers. We're no longer TV guys. We are integrators. We sell a service. We may add product with it, but we sell a service. I think that's the never-ending takeaway from all of these conversations.
Yeah, and you got to go a step further and look at it from a full 360-degree perspective. The service isn't just about what you do when the project's completed, and it's not about rolling a truck. And it's about providing, all of the expertise for every technology decision that homeowner is going to make, that the family's going to make, being there all the time, 24/7. That's the requirement. And if you're there, you're going to do very well with that.
Very good. All right, gentlemen, let's end it there on our fantastically long show that we did today. Hope you guys all enjoyed it. Hagai, thank you so much for joining us before your red eye. Where can people connect with you?
Hagai@accessca.com.
Very good. That was short and sweet. Michael, I don't even know if you have your new contact information yet. It's so fresh. But if people wanted to connect with you, where can they do that?
Just wander the streets of Decatur, Georgia, screaming my name is probably the best play for the next week. And then after that, contact your local favorite Data Innovations personnel, and they'll know how to get me.
Fantastic. Joe, thanks for being here again and wearing the orange hat. Where can people find you?
They can find us at The Thoughtful Home, on Twitter @ThoughtfulHome. And you can always find us at CD. And by the way, that's Longhorns, Hook 'em Horns. Unfortunately, this last weekend went great, but it was an amazing game.
I'm just glad you're not wearing the Houston hat today. That would have broke my
You can
heart.
also find and patching camera systems.
and possibly here soon, WPA2 as well.
Yeah. No, see, we're starting to roll that remotely because that's what we do.
Those iron-on patches? I wasn't sure what you were referring to. I'm sorry.
No problem, Mitch. Where can people connect with you, my friend?
I'm at mitch@ZWaveAlliance.org, or you can tweet at me at Mitchell_Klein.
Excellent. Again, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. For myself, if you'd like to follow me, you can find me at Matt D. Scott on Twitter and every other social platform. But more importantly, please stop by AVNation.tv. You'll find this show as well as a wide variety of our other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our underwriters. We are extremely grateful for their support and ask that you support them as well. Thanks again. That's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek.